All right, we're going to look at notes for 11-2B. Our objective here is dividing rational expressions. All right, we've been looking at multiplying rational expressions, and you'll notice that division is very similar. If I asked you what is 10 divided by 1/2, in our notation we'd say 10 divided by the fraction 1/2, and instead of dividing by a fraction, we often convert that. We can say division is the same as multiplying by the reciprocal. That means instead of saying 10 divided by 1/2, we can rewrite that as 10 times the reciprocal of 1/2, which would be 2/1, or just 2. So we're going to get an answer of 20. And if you think about it, you have 10 pies and you cut them in half, you would have 20 pieces. All right, so a reciprocal is just a fraction flipped over. And which fraction fraction do we flip? We would flip the second one, the one that comes after the division sign. All right, so in question 1 here, we have negative 10 divided by 3x, and we are dividing that fraction by 11 divided by 9. So we have two fractions, we're trying to divide them. Instead, we're going to rewrite it as negative 10 over 3x times the reciprocal of 11/9, which would be 9/11. And then we treat it the same as we've been treating all of our fractions when we're multiplying. We look for what we can reduce, and in this case we could reduce the 3 and the 9 to 3 and 1. And so our final answer here, multiplying across, would be negative 30 divided by 11x. All right, question 2. Notice on this one we do have some factoring. There's these minus signs in here, and we always know that we can't cancel common terms, we have to take out common factors. So if you have a plus or minus, if the expression lives next to a plus or minus sign, we do need to factor it. So we're going to factor 2x minus 4. It becomes 2 parentheses x minus 2. We're basically undistributing a 2 from that. Our second fraction, we're going to flip this one over. So we want to multiply by the reciprocal. That means the 12x is going to go on top, and the 3x minus 6 is going to move to the denominator position. But again, we're going to factor that as we go. So we have 3 parentheses x minus 2. And then we look for our common factors. In this case, we have an x minus 2 that we can cancel out. And we have a couple different 3's that we could reduce with the 12. It doesn't really matter which one you use. All right, so final answer. We have several pieces left. We have a 2 here, we have a 4 here, and we have an x. So our numerator is going to be 8x. Denominator, we have a 3 right here and nothing left in our second fraction. So 8x divided by 3. All right, so what is the first rule of factoring? We always want to look for that GCF. Is there something common that we can pull out? It's going to make our factoring so much easier. And in this case, we do have a number that we can take out. In our top fraction, or the top part of our first fraction, we can take out a 2. If we take a 2 from 10x squared, we're going to have 5x squared left. Taking a 2 from this 28, we're going to have negative 14x. And taking a 2 from 16 would give us an 8. That trinomial can be factored again. So still working with this top piece, we're going to have a 2. Our 5x squared, we're going to split that apart as 5x and 1x. And to get this positive 8 on the end, we need to look at factors of 8. So our factors of 8, we could use 1 and 8, 2 and 4, or we could use the negative options. And since our middle term is negative, we're going to look at the negative versions of those. We need a pair that's going to give us a negative 14 in the middle. So if we put our negative 2 on this end, it's going to get multiplied to the 5x when we do our foiling. So that turns it into negative 10, and if we put our negative 4 here, now we've got our negative 14x in the middle. Our denominator here, this 2x minus 4, we could factor a 2 out of that and have x minus 2 left. On the other side of our fraction, we are going to have to flip this one over because it is division, and instead of dividing, we're going to multiply by the reciprocal. So the 5x squared minus 41x plus 8 is going to move to the top, and we're going to look at how to factor that. Our 5x squared, we can factor into 5x times 1x. To get an 8, we've already listed our options over here on the side. We're trying to get a negative 41 for our middle term. If we put an 8 outside here, then our outsides will give us 40x, insides will give us 1x, that's our 41. Okay, and our denominator now comes from the top of our second fraction, the 25x squared term. We have a couple options for 25x squared. We could look at 1 and 25 or 5 and 5 again. I'm going to try the 5 and 5 option first just because I have a few other factors in this question that have a 5x, and I'm hoping something will cancel out in the end. So we've got 25x squared split into 5x and 5x. We need a positive 4 here. My options are 1 and 4, negative 1, negative 4, 2 and 2, negative 2, negative 2. Since our middle term here is negative, we're going to try our negative options. If we try the 1 and the 4 and FOIL that out, we end up with negative 5x in the inside piece, and we end up with negative 20x on the outside, and that's our negative 25. So we have everything factored. Now we have to look at what common factors we could reduce out. So in this case, we do have a 2 common over here. We have a 5x minus 4 that we can cancel with that one. We have a 5x minus 1 that we can cancel out. And we have some terms here that match, x minus 2. So the only term that's left is our x minus 8. So that would be our final answer for question 3. All right, so to summarize, how do I divide rational expressions? We need to flip the second fraction and change it to multiplication. We're multiplying by the reciprocal. All right, so step 1 is to multiply by the reciprocal. Step 2 is to factor anything you can. Factor, factor, factor. And then step 3 is to cancel and multiply the pieces that are left. Your assignment for section 11.2B is to do the non-circled questions from your packet on page 11.2B.